That's a sharp axe. Welcome to the Humboldt Axe YouTube channel. I'm Doc, and this time I'm going to show you the easiest way on how to sharpen your axes. It's pretty inexpensive and you get a good consistent edge on them. And I sharpen up my axes. I've cut my fingers a number of times, but I'll show you how at least I do it, and pretty inexpensive. And then also, we've been looking at the stats on our YouTube channel, and 99% of the people that watch our channel haven't quite subscribed yet. So if you could please help us out, we greatly appreciate it, my family and I. And with that, stay tuned, hang with me, and let's get to it. So I'm in the middle of an axe build for my friend. And so I thought what I'd do is show you how I sharpen up my axes. You can do it by hand, and I've done that. I use these vintage bits, which are tempered. This is a really old one. This head right here has got to be, I don't know, 80 years, I bet. I bet you that's how old this thing is. But I use a belt sander. And for years, I just bought this cheap one right here. I mean, I don't know. I think I paid 35, 40 bucks for this at our local Harbor Freight. It's just a 1x30 belt sander. When I use these, I put 120 grit. I use 120 grit belts. If you go higher than that, what'll happen is you can't. I wouldn't go any more than 80 because it's striking away the steel, you know. And it depends what you're using these for. I use a lot of these for display, so I want to make sure there's a nice, you know, clean bevel on it. But if you do have to create a new bevel for it, you can go with an 80-bit belt. They're pretty inexpensive, and this is pretty inexpensive. You just get your angle in there. But what I'll do is I'll show you. I use a 2-inch. I bought this. It's a 2 by. Let me find out. Hold on. It's a 2x42, and I use these Red Label abrasives. They are really good. They're not too cheap, but these are, again, I use 120 grit. If you go more than that, it just depends what you need to do. If you've got to redo your bevel, you want to probably use the 80 grit if you use this method. And this Bucktool also has a grinding wheel on it. And what's the grit? Let me see if I can read it. It's 100. It's a 100 grit wheel. So I'll use that if I've got to put an edge on it, you know. But you got to be careful. The vintage bits that I use are tempered, and you can't leave it on there too long because it'll lose its temper. So you got to be really careful. But this is what I use. These 2-inch, 120 works great. So what I try to do when I do this is about a 1/2 inch. I'll try to, you know, because the steel comes right back on these. It's so cool. But I try to keep it about a 1/2 inch around here, and I work it. And then then at the very end, I would say not much, 1/8 inch maybe. There's a micro bevel, or at least I put a micro bevel on there. And man, I'll tell you what. This is, I think I paid a couple $100 for this one. And again, my little 1x30, it's like 30 or 40 bucks. And that, if you're just sharpening up your axes, it's a good investment. 30, 40 bucks for the actual little grinder, at least that's what I paid. And in the belts, you can get packages of them like this. I don't know, they come in, there's a few of them, pack of 5, and they're all 120. 120 is about, you can go more like 180 if you want to polish it up, but I find 120 is a good, it works really good. And then when I'm done doing all that, I keep extra belts over here, my used belts. So at the very end, especially for my display axes, I'll use the other ones, and it'll help polish up that edge. It comes out really nice. So let me get set up. I'll try to bring you in as close as I can so you can see what I'm doing. Let's see. I'll get down. I take it at an angle, and I got to pay attention. I'm putting my gloves on. Let me get. I'll try to get you in there as much as I can. I put it at the angle, I think, but honestly, I go out a little bit, and I see where it's taken metal, and I'll adjust my angle based on where I see that metal going out. I do it all by feel, and I do the best I can. You know, oh, you can't see me, but that's what I do. So let me turn it on. It's going to get loud here for a minute. And let me make sure you can get a good angle on that. Let me go get my glasses too, by the way. All right. Give it a shot. Hello. My gloves on. So you can see, maybe it'd be better over here, I don't know. So you can, let me get down. So you can kind of see where the metal's already coming off. So I go through it once and I just kind of, that belt's coming down, I just roll it. Of course I'm right side up. I just kind of slowly roll it and go straight across in one smooth motion. If you go back and forth, I don't know, I try to keep my bevels nice and clean. So I just go, I'll go this way, I'll take a look and I'll come back on it and I'll just keep going back and forth. But you want to do one smooth motion. It'll give it a really nice bevel. Let me put it through it again. There we go. You can see it to start cleaning up that. There you go, maybe you can see that. And it depends on how much pressure you put on there. You can see it's chipping away the metal. You know, every spark that comes off is a piece of metal. If you press it harder against that, it'll take more. You just got to do it by feel. But I'm going to finish up the main bevel here. I don't know if you can see it, but at the very tip, there's still rust, which is the other thing with these patina bits. It really shows you where you're at with it. But there's a, I'll make sure I clean all that up and get this bevel down to about 1/2 inch, hopefully, and make it nice and clean. And then that micro bevel, I'll do that at the end, and it makes it sucker sharp. And then once I flip it over and do this side, I'll repeat and do the same thing. See if I can get in closer too. Try it that way. You can kind of see the angle I'm working on. Hopefully you can see that. Let's try it. Getting there, so I need to come down a little bit more on that. So you just adjust your ankle. The other thing too, you want to tilt it up, but you don't want to go too far. And as you take a pass, you can tell your line, because the other thing with these vintage bits are, they're imperfect, so they're not always straight. You just got to keep your eye on it. That's why it's good to look straight down when you're doing this. Whoops. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. A nice, about 1/2 inch or so is what I do. I went a little deep there, but I can keep going back and forth. And you can already see that, man, this vintage steel, it brings that metal right back out. So let me finish doing this. I'll do the other side. And if you can see the top of it there, that's where that micro bevel is at. You can kind of see that line of it. So let me finish this up. I'll do this side. You can kind of see the micro bevel on there. I'm not sure, but let me finish it up and I'll bring it back. So let me show you this side here. I didn't have quite the bevel, so I started using the grinding wheel a little bit. You can see there, I try not to do that because you really got to be smooth. But let me get you in close on the grinding wheel on this side, and I'll show you what I'm doing nice and smooth on this. So let's use it. Man, you got to be careful because you don't want to run it too far on there because you'll lose your temper. So I just run it nice and slow back and forth. It's going to work just on this side anyway. Yeah, that's coming out. You got to be so careful. I got to do this side as well. So let me actually, before I finish, let me show you what I'm doing on this side here too. You got to hold it very steady. You don't want it bouncing around. You want to go nice and smooth. Put that micro bevel back on there. So now I'm going to try to get up here about a ½ inch. Not too much. That's why I touch it and go this way to kind of see where I'm at. Then I'll run it back, going this motion. And you got to find a spot on your wheel where it's not bouncing. You want to just barely put it on there. And once I see where the wheel's at, then I'll take it back through this way. Here we go. Okay. So hard to not keep it from bouncing, but you want to make sure it's nice and smooth. So I'm going to finish this one up, and I'm going to get back onto the wheel, and I'll finish this up. I just didn't, the bevel wasn't as deep as I thought, so it's all right. I'm learning still too, so let me finish this up, and then I'll show you how I do the micro bevel. One of the reasons I try to avoid using the grinding wheel is, I don't know if you can see it, it just leaves me a lot of extra work to clean up that bevel. Again, it depends what you're using these things for. But for display axes, I mean, I do all my axes and I make sure they're nice and clean, but it just takes more work on the finish up when I finish up the edge, which I'll put it back on the 120. It'll clean up that bevel, and then I'll show you how sharp I can get this thing by using this. See, it's already starting to clean it up. It's just going to take me a little bit longer, and it just uses up my belts. That's the other reason too. But this grinding wheel works great. But if you use one like this, again, this is a Bucktool. It's actually for knife sharpening. It also depends on how much pressure you're putting on this as well. So I'm going to work this over, and I'll show you. Hopefully you can see it in the light right now. I'll move it back and forth. I'll show you how clean I can get this using this. Again, 120 grit. I'll bring you back in a minute. When you almost get done, it's coming out nice. You don't want to press too hard. The harder you press, the more it'll take metal off there, and then I can get a pretty good finish, but just run it across a little bit here. That's a sharp axe. If you, hold on. There you go. So I know it's pretty basic video, but that sucker, oh, I could see, when you see the burl at the top, you know that's pretty sharp. I don't know if you can tell. This GoPro works good, but not always. Personally, I'd recommend learning how to do it with a hand file, like a square file. I mean, if you really want to learn how to do this stuff, again, like my stepfather used to say, Chuck, there's more than one way to change a wheel bearing, and there's definitely more than one way to sharpen an axe. I've been doing this for a number of years, and I used to hand file all my axes, a lot of them, and exclusively. And I put some of those in my first videos, hand filing it. When you hand file, what you do is you get an intimate look on how the metal reacts when you go to filing and how to do the bevel and all of that. I'm just a dork for this stuff and making axes, but get you one of these. This little 31 by 30, it's cheap. I'd recommend doing that. Again, it depends on what you're doing. If you're making display axes, like mostly what I do, I bought that 2 by 42. It's a Bucktool. Man, it works great, and it's efficient. You just got to use the belts. The belts do wear out fairly quick, but learn how to hand file. I don't know if that's razor sharp, but I've cut my fingers a number of times. Wear gloves, and I should know better, but there you go. Appreciate everybody watching. Please be sure you subscribe down below. My family and I greatly appreciate it. And again, like 99% of the people that are watching our videos haven't quite subscribed yet. So if you could help us out, we're trying to grow our channel and build a lot more content. So with that, thank you so much. Just remember, celebrate others, respect yourself, because love is powerful, man. And so is this axe. Look how sharp that is. I'll see you on the next one.